I guess so good evening. My name is Helen Obiano Juchinwike. I'll be your trainer today, and I'm the UI UX designer mentor in KodeCamp 2.0. Okay, today I'll be your trainer, and today we're going to talk about grid and layout. I guess few of us know about grid and layout. So today we are going to talk about grid and layout. What is grid? What is grid? A grid is a collection of horizontal and vertical lines that split a screen into columns and rows. Grid gives a page or app structure and enable elements at very space. Now, grid and layout, let's look on grid. Now, grid is a collection of lines, either horizontal or vertical, that splits in a screen into columns in the form of straight or rows. I give an app a structure. It gives our app structure when designing a UI design. So in the grid is just like let's say a collection where you just need to align your design for your design to look well presented and be an eye-catchy design, not just a design that just place your design anyhow. It's going to give your design a very good eye-catchy. The spacing between the left and the right will be the same. The spacing between the top and the bottom will be the same. It's just a form of lines, either horizontal or vertically. So now, what is column? Column are the vertical section of a grid. At the vertical section of a grid, vertical section of a grid, the more columns the grid has, the more flexible it is. Most web design use 12 columns, iPad use 8 columns, and phone uses 4 columns. Now, let's say the column is just a section. Let's say the section between the first and the second. So on our web, we normally use 12 columns. You use 12 for your design. When it comes to web, you know, the web screen is actually bigger than the iPad, and the iPad is actually bigger from the phone. So when designing, every screen has its own size, and every screen has its own size of column you will use, because the way your design on the mobile is actually different from iPad, and it's also different from the web. So on your web design, we use 12 columns to place our design so that it will be so matching and it will be eye-catching, and the space between the left, the right will actually be the same on your web design. Same apply as the iPad and also applying to the mobile. So when we are designing for an iPad, we normally use 8 columns. 8 columns, that is what we use. And for the phone, we use 4 columns. Then what are rows? Rows are horizontal section of a grid. They are used rather rarely in web design. Let's say I want to design a web view, or okay, a web design that has my laptop screen. You know, when placing the design, it's actually wide for it, but when I'm designing for a mobile, it's actually very small. Now let's take a look Jumia as a case study. Jumia has a mobile view and it has a web view. For the web view, the header is actually spread out, while for on the mobile, it's actually filled up in a hamburger menu where you will just click, then select what you want to select. Now, let's say that Jumia now 12 column was actually used for that design. The design are spread out and are fit in for the web design. While for the mobile, it's actually, let's say, a little bit congested, but the spacing between the left and the right is actually the same. It's actually the same because 6 or 4 columns were actually used on that mobile design. Same apply as web and also apply for the iPad designs. So rows are horizontal section of a grid. They are rather rarely used in web design. That's, let's say, the column, the row between the columns. Now, what are gutters? Gutters are empty space that divides columns and rows. The smaller the gutter, the tinier the content of the screen. Now, let's say on our columns and grid, there is something called gutter. They are empty space. Now, let's say, let's take our exercise book, the nursery exercise book that our kindergarten normally use. where they will tell them to write 2 in between the box. Now, let's take that book, for example. Now, the row, they are just placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 12 now for the web. And now the space between the first and the second, the space, the tiny space there is actually known as the gutter. That is what we use. So before we start any of our design, we don't just go into the Figma to start designing. We have to use our row and column just to align our screen and know how exactly we are going to be placing our design. So those tiny spaces between the first row and the second row is actually known as gutter. They are empty spaces that divide columns and row. The smaller the gutter, the tinier the content on the screen. So the tinier you select your gutter, that is how the tiny your content should look like. If your gutter has enough space, that means your content too will be very big. Now let's take a look at another one called margin. Margin are the space outside of column or rows and gutter. You can think of them as gutter outside the grid. Why they can be set to 0. Setting them to a higher level will result in more white space of the edge of your design. Now, exactly what I've been saying. The margin. Now, let's say the margin is outside the selection of your grid. They are outside. They are on the left and on the right. Let's say we select 100. The space between the left and right will actually be wide. Then if you select 70, the lower the number, the higher the space of your design. Now we have another one called models. They are the area of which a column or a row intersects. They are the areas of which our columns and row are intersect, same known as the spacing of your columns and row sections. Now, this is how it looks like. This is the row. Let's say this is a web view of actually size of 1440. That for the web, our normally size screen is 1440. That is, let's say 1440 for the width. But when we are creating our landing page or a longer screen, we don't mind the length of the height of the screen. We go with the actually web width. Now, this is for the web design. These are known as columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They are known as the columns. This is it. So now these are the margin. Let's say we use 100 here. So this is it. The space between here and here is actually the same. So if you try on your Figma and try and put 70, you will see that it's going close. So the higher the number, the larger the space. And this is also known as the grid. So this is another space between this guy and this guy. So the space here and here is actually the same. It is known as the grid. So this is how the grid system look like. Now, before we move on importance of grid, do you have any question to draw me back? If I'm too fast, you can just drop a comment. Now we have importance of grid. What are importance of grid? Grid gives structure and clarification to your design, just like how I've said earlier. Now let's look at Jumia as a case study. Jumia has, if you open jumia.co or .com on your laptop or your desktop, you will see that the screen is actually large and is suitable and it gives a clear structure of that interface when using your laptop. Same applies for your mobile and same applies for your iPad. Now, it gives a clear structure for a particular screen or particular design I'm designing for. Now, I open Jumia with my phone and Mr. B opened Jumia with his laptop. You will see that the structure is well fit to that each design. For example, Mr. B opened with a laptop or with a mobile. It gives a clear structure, a clear clarification, a clear structure of the design for a web. Same apply for the mobile. let's say we didn't use grid, for example, and when you open a design, you will see that the left spacing is actually different from the right spacing, which is not supposed to be so. When using a grid or a column, it gives an eye catch, it gives a clear clarification, like a simple eye catcher of your design or any product of your choice. Now, number two, we have grid makes the digital product easier to use. Same thing applies to other products. Let's say we have Konga, example of another product, we have Konga.com. Konga too has a very it's easier to use. When you see a design and you just want to go for the left and the right, you see that it's very eye-catching and you want to come back to the design because it gives it makes the design very, very easier to use. Just very easy to use when using on your phone, when using from your laptop or desktop, and when using from your iPad. It gives an easy clarifications on that. Grid also makes collaboration much easier. It makes collaboration easier. When it comes to collaboration, let's say the way I work on this screen, the same way I work on this screen, the collaboration there is very, very much easier. The interaction is very, very much easier because grid has already did a lot of work for you, like giving you a perfect space or a perfect structure for your design. We also have another one. We say a grid makes the design responsive. Yes, when a grid makes design responsive, when using on any kind of our device, the grid makes the design responsive. Like I said earlier, for a web, we use 12, for an iPad, we use 8, and for a mobile, we use 4. So it gives a clear responsive design for our designs when using grid, because by the time you place the grid and each number that is meant to be on the margin, our design is going to be very perfect and it's going to be very interactive, because the more you view on your the same way you view on your web is going to be the same way you view on your mobile. It's easier and it will bring you your attention to come back for the designs. Does anybody have any question to ask while we continue on the next one? You can unmute yourself if you have a question, or you can raise your hand. Okay, Adeze, you have something to say. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm okay. Boma has answered.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So we're going to continue. We have types of grid. Now, there's a lot of grid we have, and fluid grid is one of it. Now, this says this is the type of grid in which the column width changes based on screen width, while margin and gutter width are fixed. This type of grid is perfect for designing a responsive interface, as the same size of the content changes based on the screen size. Now, we're still using Jumia as a case study. Now, when designing Jumia application for a web, the way it's spread in the screen is different from the mobile. Now, let's say the space between the first card, let's say the product card, the space from the first product card and the space from the second product card, let's say is actually the same thing for the mobile, but the difference there is just the image and the button is actually smaller. But that is when the margin and the gutter are fixed already. But for the column, it's changed based on the screen width. Now, the same way, let's say for the mobile, let's say for the mobile, the product card, we have just 3 or we have just 4. But for the web, we have 6, we have 7, for instance. Now, the space, let's say the margin and gutter on the web is actually the same for the mobile, but just that the column will change. Do you remember the column for the web is actually 12, while for the mobile is either 6 or 4. So the column change based on the screen size, while the margin and the gutter are fixed, but the contents is either reduced or increased depending the size of the screen. Now we have another type of grid, a fixed grid. Now, what is fixed grid? A fixed grid has a fixed value of column and gutter, with margin width that change based on screen width. I don't know if that is clear to you. Now, a fixed grid has a fixed value of column and gutter, while margin widths that change based on screen width. Now, let's say the column is fixed, the gutter is fixed, but the margin width that changes based on the screen size. Let's say it's the opposite direction of the fluid grid. Let's say something like that. Now, fixed grid work based for content that is supposed to look different on a different screen, but rather stay the same. Fixed grid, it works best for content. Let's say the content we are going to add on our product card for the web is the same for the mobile. You get, when it comes to, let's say jean trouser with so amount of price there, it's actually the same for the mobile. Now, I say why it may seem that fixed grid, fixed grid are usually rare because the content placed based on them will not be responsive. They are actually used quite frequently, for example, for forms and articles. Exactly what I said. When it comes to time text, sometimes the grid, let's say sometimes the column and the gutter remain the same, but the margin are actually changed. The margin, remember I told you the margin is between the left and the right. Whatever you have on the left is going to be the same as on the right when it comes to the margin. While the gutter is the space between the columns, the first column and the second column, remember. So do you have any question? You can raise your hand and ask your question. Do you have a question to ask? Okay, Dami, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
The question I wanted to ask is that, can we practicalize this? Can we see it? Like, can we actually see it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Any other person with questions before I move to Figma? Okay, now let's get into Figma. Okay, now let's look at this now. I have, can you guys see my screen? If you can see my screen, just say hi. Oh, okay. Now let's try something. Now I have a frame. Okay, I click here and I'm going to select my desktop frame, which is, okay, let's say we're going to select desktop, which is 11440/10. Now this is we have for the desktop, and we have for the mobile. Let's say the mobile we have let's use iPhone 30 for instance, and we have another iPad too. Okay, let's go with tablets. Let's go with this. Now we have 3. So we have 3 of them here now. So now for the desktop, let's say for the desktop, this is where you will click your layout grid. So at the middle of your right hand side of your design or of your Figma file, just click on the plus icon. This will appear. So what you're going to do, you're going to click on the setting icon, then you're going to top and click your columns. Now the default column here is always 5. The gutter is 20, while the margin is always 0. So what you're going to do for the desktop, I told you the desktop, we normally use 12. This is it. So it's going to be this. Now this is your column. Now we don't have any margin because our margin is 0, but for the gutter, we have 20. So the space between this here and this place is 20, but for the margin is 0 because we haven't selected anything yet for it. We haven't selected anything. So it's giving us zero. So by the time, let's say we put 100, you can see that the space is there. Now, the more you are increasing the number, the larger the space between this place and this place. So let's say we have 200. This is how it will look. Now let's say we have 60, and this is how it will look. Now this is what we have for the web whenever we want to design a web design. So our count is 12, our margin is 60, then our gutter is 20. This is the actually default number for the gutter. But if you're not, if you don't like this gutter or it's not giving what you want, you can increase it. So this is the higher the number of the gutter, the larger the space. You get, this is how it will look like. The larger the space. So this is how it looks like. So this space between this first column and the second column is the gutter. While the space between the left-hand side and the right-hand side is also known as the margin. While the pinkish line you can see is known as the column, which is known as count, just the count 12 or count, whatever count you want to give it. So it's known as column. Now let's go for the mobile view. Now this is for the mobile. Now on the mobile, I told you guys we use 4 for it. Now let's say, for instance, now I want to design something for the mobile. So I'm going to do the same pattern for it. I'm going to click on the setting. I'm going to select column. Now the default column I told you guys is always 5. The margin is 0. The gutter is 20. That is the default setting when it comes to layout grid. So now I'm going to say select 4. Now I have 4 for it. Now this is it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the space, the gutter space is 20, which is the default size. So you can change it. Now let's use 50, for instance. This is it. But our margin is 0 because we haven't selected any margin. So let's use margin of 50. This is what we have. So the space between the left and the right is 50, which is known as the margin. While the gutter between the first column and the second column, the space is 50. Then the count is 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is it. Now for the iPad, the same thing. You can go for the same way too. The default setting is always 5, the same setting. So you can just say let's go with 8 and let's go with 60, 50, and we have 20. This is it. Now this is for layout. This is for column. These are for columns. Now, let's say we want to go with the row. Now, this is for row. I click on the plus icon. I select the rows. This is it. It gives us the other way around. So you can now select for the rows. For example, I'm designing something that I need to place my text this straight form. So I'm going to click on this and say 8, for instance, and the gutter is going to be 60. Let's just say it's the same way for column, but this other way is the other way around. So this is for rows and this is for column. So you can just give you whatever counts you want, and you can give you whatever margin you want, and gutter number of gutter you want. You can also change the color. You can also change the color to whatever color you want. You can change the color to whatever color you want, and you can increase the opacity for it. You can change to whatever color you want for your rows and columns. You can change the color. Do we have question? You can raise your hand if you have question. Okay, Dami, you raise your hand. Go on. Okay, Dami, you raise your hand. Unmute your mic and speak.
All right, good evening. I'm Wisdom.
Okay, Wisdom.
Is there a standard value to be used for the gutter and the margin?
Repeat your question, sorry.
I said, I want to know, is there a standard value to be used for the gutter and the margin? Can we just choose any value we like for the gutter and margin?
Yeah, you can select whatever value you want for your gutter, for the gutter and margin, right? You can select whatever number or whatever column you want. It depends on the design. For instance, I told you for Jumia now, let's say this is our desktop view and we are using, let's say we are using gutter of 20. And this is it. So whenever I'm placing my card, yeah, let's duplicate this. Let me show you something. Now let's make this guy 60. And let's make this guy 100, for instance. So sometimes whenever you're designing by the time you place your design and everything, by the time you click on the present icon and see, you'll see that some of your design, if the space here, the space between the left is actually different from the space between the right, it won't give us that good eye-catching design. But if you use, it will give us that good eye-catching design. But if you place your design, let's say for that your e-commerce website, and you use this kind of large space between the left and the right, it's going to be actually different, to be awkward, a little bit awkward, because the space here is actually too much from here. This kind of space or margin space is always used for when it comes to website where you don't need to log in or you don't need to sign up, you just need to go and look for something and you go off. It's always used. But maybe let's say for a web app, this is actually good for it. So you don't have a particular number or particular digits you need to use for a particular design. The only digit comes whenever you are designing let's say a particular product. It depends on the product that you are designing that you require to add a figure of your choice. Is the question clear for you now? Wisdom, is your question clear? Okay, Dami, you raised your hand. Okay, Dami, unmute your mic and say something.
Oh, all right. I wanted to ask a question, but I was not permitted until now.
Okay.
So yeah, what I wanted to ask was that forgotten what I wanted to ask. I forgot.
Okay. Do you have another question? Does anybody else have a question to ask? Okay, Dami, you can unmute your mic and ask a question.
All right, I remember now.
Okay.
When you're on the iPad, you actually click you're on the layout, you click I think for the column.
Yeah.
Then I don't know whether it was all of a sudden I couldn't see that one again. I just saw row immediately.
Okay, sorry. You can actually add both of them. Let's say this is for row. This is for row. You can actually add another one. Click on the plus icon. Then let's use column let's use row for example, and let's change the color to, okay, let's increase the color or increase the opacity. This is it.
Okay.
So let's use 8 for it, for instance. You can change this guy to, let's use margin of 50. This is it. So you can add, so let's say for example, I'm placing something in form of a row that I need the spacing between the left and the right. You can actually turn off this the I code, and do whatever you want to do. Turn it on and turn off the other one and do whatever you want to do. If you need the space between the top and the space between the top and the bottom to be the same, you can do it. Is it clear to you now? Is it clear to you now? Okay, Adese, she raised up her hand. Adese, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, sorry. I didn't really understand what you explained with that fluid grid. Where is it used? I mean, when is it used?
Where is it used?
I mean, when? Bless now, when?
No, it's where. Where is it used? Where we can use? Yes. Okay, where is it used? Yeah. We use layout grid whenever it comes to designing. Let's say, let me turn off this eye. Let's say I'm designing for a e-commerce website. So I can just put my box here. Let's say I'm using white, for instance. Okay, let's use black. Sorry to be clear. So let's say I'm using these guys here. So I just need something, my checkout card to be just equal, for instance. So I'm going to make this space between, let's say, I just want this layout. Now I want my space between this left-hand side and this right-hand side to be of the same. So I'm not going to just start designing. So I want my design to be, the spacing to be well aligned. So I'm going to use layout grid for column for the left-hand side and for the right-hand side, so that the spacing between the left and right is going to be of the same. Same apply for the top and the bottom. Is that understood now? And this is the answer. Is your question answered? Let me, any other question? Okay, I'm going to give Bomadi space for her to continue from where I stop.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
So I can stop sharing my screen now.
So, Ellen, thank you for that class. I really learned a lot from my end. Okay, so Jerry, your hand is up. Do you want to ask any question? And for the person that asked where you can use fixed grid and where you can use fluid grid. Now, when using fixed grid, mostly you use it in cases like designing form elements. Let's say you want to design your login screen, you know, those kind of login that the text element is at the center. So you use fixed, no, use the fixed, yes, the fixed grid to design those kind of things. Then for the other one, which is the fluid, you mostly use it when you're designing responsive grids, when you're designing responsive sites. For instance, sites that you would have to duplicate it, both mobile view, web view, mobile view, and an app, iPad. Now, you know, every website, as you visit every website, there's sometimes that you would not be with your system to visit a website. So it's advisable as a UI UX designer that once you're designing for any screen, you should make available. You should, once you're designing for a website, you should make sure that you make provision for the other screens, how it will look like when you open it on iPad. Obviously, it will be different. Like in mobile view, the common example, when you're using your mobile phone to log in a website, you mostly see they use hamburger icon to show that we have other things listed. Normally in website, those things are what we have on our navbar. But when using your phone, you can't place them like that. You have to look for an alternative way to place them. So if you're designing responsive screens, responsive sites, you should always use the fluid. Then when you want to design form elements, like you want to design your login screen, sign up screens, those ones that are mostly in the middle, you make use of your fixed elements. So for today, we'll be moving straight to Figma to build a responsive grid. So I'm going to show you how to arrange your, when you want to design, how to do your grid, so that once you're designing, you just know how to place each element. So let me share my screen. Before I share my screen, is there any other question? Okay, so if you can see my screen, let me know. Once you can see my screen, let me know. Hello.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so you can all see my screen. So what can you see? Figma, right?
Yeah, I can see your Figma, yes.
Okay, so let's go straight. So if you're with your system right now, let me see, because we'll be doing it together like we did the previous classes, So, okay, so we'll be doing it together. Once you're done, you share it. If you can't share today, you do it by tomorrow. Tomorrow should be the last time you should send us so that we would also review. So what I'm going to do immediately, I'm going to hit F, or you click on your frame, you select the desktop you want to use. I mostly use 140 by 110. That's like the standard. That's like the standard size. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll go straight to layout grid. You can either press your plus sign here. So on this, by this side, I'm going to change it to column grid. So after changing it, I'll make my count to 12, because from what Ellen told you, that most times when designing for website, we use 12. 12 is like a standard column count for column grid. So I'm going to leave it at stretch, because remember, we are building a responsive grid. So it should be at stretch. Then I'll put my margin to 70, and I'll make my gutter 20. Now, this is for my column grid. So I'm going to add another grid to this, which is the grid for, okay, first of all, let me save this. You can either save it as so I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to change it to my rule. Now the counts, I'm going to make the count 1000. Then I'm going to keep it at top. I'll make the height 8, but 8 is not like the standard one. You can either use 4 or 16, depending on what you're trying to design for. Like, I want all my sections to have 8 pixel space. So I'm going to put it at 8. You can either put it at 16, depending on what you want to do. Then I'm going to keep my gutter at 0. So I'm done. I've gotten my grid for the rule. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that, okay, let me show you first. Now, when I draw this thing, if you notice that it's snapping one after the other. And if you can look at this part of the screen, you will notice that once I drag it, it moves by 8. Like, it's by 8. Now, yours might not be like that. So for you to be able to solve that, what you need to do is to press Control plus comma on your keyboard. If you're using a MacBook, you can press Command and you go to nudge amount. As you can see, my own nudge amount is in 8. The small nudge is in 8 too. So now, if you use your small nudge, it will require that you use your arrow. So once you click on your arrow, it goes down. Now let me show you. Now this is it. If I want to move this to the next one, I just need to click on my buttons and my arrow keys, and it's moving by 8 pixels. Then if I use the big nudge, if I hold down shift, it will still move the same way. So depending on how you put it. As you can see, mine is already, I put the 2 at 8, so that it's either I use my keyboard or I use my arrow keys or I use shift. Either ways, it's going to snap by 8. So this would actually help you get consistency in your design. That's the whole idea of fixing it like this. So now we are done with getting our grid for our designs. Now, how do you make it responsive? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame, and I'll choose for tablet, and I'm going to go with iPhone 11 Pro. So let me take it down. Now I want this grid system to be on this particular one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, I'll copy this, hold down shift, and I'll copy this too. Shift. But I have to, sorry. So I'm going to hold this down. So it's not copying at once. So what I'll do is I'll copy this first one and I'll paste it here. Oh, so I actually made a mistake. I was supposed to add this to our layer style. So by clicking this, I'll add this. So I'll change this to colon, and I'll need to add the other one once I click on it. So as you can see, we're experiencing an issue here because we did not do it one after the other. So what you do is, if you're already doing it, you have to go back. Once you set your column grid, you add it to your style. And once you do your rules, you also add it to your style. So since I'm going to press Ctrl Shift, Ctrl Z to undo everything. Okay, yeah, I've actually gotten it. Okay, so that's it. And I'll copy this one. I've copied it too. Please, if you do not see what I did, let me know so that I'll start back. You come to this side, take your mouse to the ending part of the layout. You would see like a three. You see the hamburger icon. It's not very sharp, so you click on it, then you hold down your shift, come to this one and you see it, you've copied it. So I just press Ctrl C to copy it. So I come to this and I'll press Ctrl V to paste it. So now I've pasted it. So what I'll do is I'll come to my column grid. Remember we said that for iPad and the rest of them, you use 8. So I'll just change my count to 8. And that's it. We've gotten, okay, Solomon, your hand is up. Unmute and let's know what your issue is. Solomon, you're not following? Okay, so because of Solomon, let's go back. Let's go back. So I want everybody to follow. So I'm going to delete everything. We'll start from afresh. I'm going to add my frame. I'm using 140 by this. So what we'll do first is to get our column grid for this desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'll click on the desktop that I can see here, but you can rename it to home page or home. So just click on it, come to this part, you see your plus icon, you click on the plus, it will add grid to it. So you change the grid from the normal grid to column grid. Now, once you change it to column grid, the next thing you're meant to do is to start adding your counts, which is 12. For me, I'm going to use 12. 12. I'll leave it as stretch because I want it to be a responsive grid. And I'm going to make my margin 70. Mind you, you don't need to, it's not fixed. So some people you can use 120 as a margin, you can use 80, you can use 90, depending on what you want to achieve. So I'm going to still leave my gutter at 20, sorry. So we are done with the column grid. So what I'm going to do is I'll just get to save this one, add it to my style as column grid. colon. So I've created the style for it. Then I'll still click on it. I'll detach this. For you to be able to add your row, you have to detach style. So I'm going to detach style. Then I'll change this one to row. I'm going to make, okay. Because I detached the style, so let me add this colon first. So now I need to add another one. Colon, make this count to be 12, your margin 70 and 20. This is for colon. You add the next one, which is your rule. I'll make the count 1000. I'll keep it at top. I'll make the height to be 8 because I want it to have 8 pixels. I want it to be divisible by 8. So I'm going to change the gutter to 0. So that's it. I've added the whole part of it. Now, like I said, for some people that have not set their nudge to be able to, once you click on your arrow or other keys, what you need to do is to press your control and comma, go to nudge amount, then you set your nudge amount. If you want to use 16 pixels, if you want your spaces to be 16 pixels. Now, when it's mostly done when you're designing for a website. Yes, mobile app, you also use it for mobile app. Now, for instance, I want my nav bar. I don't want it to be 7. Some persons draw their nav bar and they make it 68. I don't want it to be 68. I want everything to be divisible by 8. So that's, I cannot set both big node and small node to be 8. Then you can also set it at 16. So you can set it at 4. Like I showed you before, the whole essence of this thing is when I draw my, if I'm doing anything I'm drawing, if I'm drawing my rectangle, you can see that it's moving by 8. So now once I move to the next one, it's by 8. It adds 8 to it, like that. That's the whole essence of drawing this. So now we don't need this. Now I want to get a responsive grid, a responsive design. That means I want to be able to design on iPhone and iPad, but I want my grids to be the same on all. So now that I've gotten this one, I've gotten the home, the one I need, and I want it to be the same across board. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to my frame, click on F on your keyboard, just type F on your keyboard. Then you can change to tablet. Let's use iPad Pro 11. So let me get all at once. So let's go to phone and let's use, let's say iPhone 11 Pro. So this is, let me place everything together. They are all equal. Now I want the same grid for all of them. So instead of going back to start setting it one after the other, what I'm going to do is I will just click on this one, come to this part, the right part. Yes, no, the left part of it. Once you take your mouse to this side, you see an hamburger icon that is very small. Just click on it, then hold down your shift, go to the next one, click, then press your Ctrl C. That's to copy. You copy the grid system, go to your iPad, just paste it, Ctrl V. Then you've pasted it. So what I'll do is I'll just change my count from 12 to 8 for the iPad. I've gotten the same grid system for it. I've gotten the same grid system for it. So now I want to do same for my mobile app. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it the same way I copied it. Click on the iPad, come to this place, copy this one, copy the two, Command C, come here and I'll paste it. Now for the mobile view, I'll change this count to 4. Then I'm going to change my margin to 35, which is half of 70, because this is a smaller screen. So I'll just make it. Now I have the same type of grid system across board. So what I'll just do is, once I design for this one and I want to make it my elements and reduce it as it ought to be. So that's it for getting a responsive grid, which is your fluid grid system. So big shakes, your hand is up. The question before we continue, we have some things to do. Hello.
Yes, I wanted to say I'm not seeing anymore, but I can see it now.
Okay, you can see now. Okay, so I guess we are all good. The task is actually to design a creative agency website. I wanted it to be a portfolio website, but portfolio will come in some other time based on, I want all plenty designs to be ready, like plenty designs. So we are going to design a website, but we'll just design the landing page. Anywhere we stop, we'll continue from there. But just know that if I stop halfway, you'll finish it. So the first thing you are going to send in is the first task. I said we are going to design something. Okay, yes. So it's what we are going to do now. So let's start. So if you're following me, I already have a screen of 140. So what I'm going to do now is to get, I'm going to draw a rectangle. So the height. Ooh. 128. So that's my height. So what I'm going to do is let's make it 780. Okay, so let's start. I just need one person to say something. How do you start your design process? Like, you want to design something fast. You want to design a landing page fast. And like I said, let's go with a creative design agency. You want to design it very fast. So what do you do first? So I'm
I think
waiting.
the first thing you do is you actually search for the kind of the design somebody else has done, like a wireframe, already made wireframe. Then you can just download it and duplicate it and start working from there to actually get yours.
Okay. All right. So for now, I don't need, thank you very much. For now, I don't really need this grid because as you can see, it's actually disturbing. So what I do most times is I set my ruler out. So I'm going to take my ruler and out. So this is it. And I'll take the next the next one, and I'll place it here. So I know that my design is not going to pass this, where this red line is. So I'll turn this off by, so I've turned it off. So now this is what I have. So I want to design. First of all, let's say I've done my research and every other thing. What I need now is I'm going to just gather my assets, what I need for my designs. Let's say I need a picture. I need a picture. I need, what do I need again? I need icons. And I need pictures and icons. And I need to get my color down. So let me just use an imaginary color that I'm going to save. Let's say I'm going to use a blue, but it should be like a very dark blue. So 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 8. Let's see what this gives us. Yeah, this is blue. And I got it. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this as my style. I'll name it as primary color, or let's go with primary, create style. So now I need to create another style. So I'll have to hold my Alt and duplicate this. I need another color. So what I'll do is I'll detach this. Then which color do I need? Let's say pink, based on I'm a girl. So you can choose your color depending on the picture you're trying to use. Let's see what comes. Yeah, pink. So these are the two colors I want to use. So I'll still get to save this one. Click on the plus button, and I'm going to name this secondary color. So I've gotten the two styles that I'll use. So I'm going to delete this. So first thing first, I need an image. Let's go on Google to get an image. So let's go on Google. Let's see images. I don't know the image I want to use, but let me look for what. Okay, creative images or tech images. Creative images. So you can either use iStock or any of those Pixel. Yeah, Pexel. You can use Pexel. You can, yeah, Pexel. So let me go straight to Pexel. So instead of, let's say, laptop. Please, can you see my screen? Because it's looking slow here on my own. So I think I like this picture. I don't know why, but I like this picture. But it might not go well for what I want to design. So let me look. Yep, this is what I need. So I'm going to download this picture on my system. Then I'll come back to Figma. I'll come back to Figma. So I'll go straight to this part. I'll go to colors, change my solid to image. So what I'll do is I just choose image. This what I just downloaded, and that's it. I've gotten my image. Now, if you start typing on this particular screen, let's say let me set my font first so that we can see. I like using Inter. Let's say 48. So let's go. a creative industry. She might not be able to see it very well. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to take this outside here. I'm going to get a frame or a rectangle, yes. And I'm going to create an overlay. So I would make this my primary color. So for you to be able to get your color, just come to this place, click on local colors. So it will show you the colors you already set here. Is either you use this or use this. Let me see this one. Reduce the opacity to like 80. Let's see how it comes out. Yeah, this is fine. But let me also see this. Reduce the opacity to 80. No, I prefer the blue. So let's go 80. 80 is nice. 70. Okay. So now if you bring your text and you place it here, you can see it very well. So let me increase this to 64 and I'm going to place it at the center. So if you notice, we've not gotten a nav bar. So I did it on purpose. So the next thing I need to get is the next text that is supposed to be here. So I'm going to use a Lorem Ipsum plugin. This select and text layout. Okay, so let me select this first. Ipsum. So how many sentences do I want? Let's say 3. Just need 3 sentences. It's too big. So what you do is you reduce it to 24. So I can still add more to it if I need more. So this is it. So set it back to so I'm going to grab this up and I'll make this text to be central. So I can remove this. All right, so I'm good with this. So I need one more thing. Now at this point, this is where your layout grid is necessary. So let me hide this. Okay, let me group this first. So let me group this as image. So it's very advisable that when you're working, try to rename your element so that your developer will not actually be confused. Now I want to hide this. So let me just change this color for the purpose of seeing. This is not the main color we're using, but I want to see. So I want to show my grid system. So this is what we do. So I want to make sure that I have 8 pixels. So it's locked. Now, sometimes you might experience some things like you trying to move. I've been trying to move this thing and it's not working. and I've been wondering why. Just look at this part. So you can troubleshoot when designing. Just look at this part, and I noticed that this is locked. So I'll just unlock it. So now that's it. So I want it to be, this is one. So let me bring it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've gotten the 8 pixel I want. If I want 4 to take it back, well, everything would be divisible by 4, 8, 4, 8, or 16, depending. So let's make it 8. This is 4. Okay, let's leave it at 4 so that the space in between them will not be too much. So I'm going to bring back this, change my text back to white. So let me save this white, save it as white. Create style. So let's also create a style for normal text, the text you would use on white background. So it's not advisable that you use white, that you use pure black. So you can make it a shade of black or anything. So I've gotten this. Let me centralize it. Okay, they are both on. So I'm going to group it. So I'll name this my text. Can you see how I'm arranging it? Yes, so that someone that will come here, the developer that will come here, would not be confused on what to do. He knows that this is text, this is image. Now, we need one more thing to make this part complete, which is a button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a button. I'll type the text. Let me select a frame. So let me select a frame. I have to type my text inside. And let's see, we're creative industry visitors. So I'll change this to, I'm going to change this to, okay, it's already on 24. So I'm going to make it an auto layout. You know how to make it an auto layout, or you right click, make it an auto layout, or you use your Shift and A. So after making it an auto layout, what you then have to do is to set it, which I'm going to set right now. I'm going to make this auto layout. I'm going to make this 32, comma 16. So sorry for that. I've set my button. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color. Do you know why it's acting like that? Because I'm changing the color of the text and not the frame. So I'm going to add my fill now, and I'm going to make this, let's see which color. Yeah, this color is cool. Now, you can now set your, what's it called again? Your rule and column. to make it 8 the spaces between them to be 8. So now I don't like how plain this button is, so I'm just going to add a 10 pixel corner radius. So I need to check this first. There's my image. Let me hide my image. So let me check. This is it, and this is it. It's just 1, 2, 3. So let me make it 4. 4. Okay, so I've gotten it. So what I'll do is I'll group this, and this is my contents. So I would align it center, middle. So I can now group it again, and I'm going to name this hero. No, it's not yet complete, so no need to name it hero. So let me just name it group. So now we need our nav bar. So what I'm going to do is let's type. So what are we going to call creatively? Creatively. So this is what our logo should look like, or this is what we are using for our logo. No, font is too big. I'm going to make it bold. Mind you, we are doing all this because we don't have a style guide. So we don't have a style guide for this design. So this is what I just wanted to create something today using the grid system we've learned. So this is it creatively. Now I need to Command D. So this is where I change this to 24. 24, yes. And I change this back to a regular font. And this should be home. Home. Command D. About. Command D. Contact us. Command D. Visitors. Let's say visit our office. Visitors. So now I'm going to hold this together. I would align it together, tidy up. Then I'm going to group it Command G. So I'll take it down to this part. You can see it's aligned. So I'm going to align this with my font. So I'll group this and I'll name this navbar. So I'm also going to group this together. This and this. If that's our navbar, this is our image. So I'll group the two. This is our hero section. So how is this looking? Let me play the screen. We've not gone far, but we've gotten a very fine hero section. if you just present this now to your team members after doing any design, after doing you just want to present something, I present this to them, they would already want to buy in the idea. So we can still make it finer and better. So let me go to this is where we are. I can make this bold. I don't joke with aligning my work. So even if it's going to take me time, I ensure that I align my work. So now we are going to finish this design. So that's your task, that's your assignment. You need to do the about us, the contact us, the visitors page, anything you want to do. So before we wrap up, sorry, so many questions on the chat box. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I'm too fast. You would have just called my attention. So everybody that wants to ask a question, you can now unmute to ask a question. Tell everyone, unmute to ask a question. Hello. Okay, so if you want to speak, just raise your hand so that I can unmute you.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, you can talk now. So what's your question?
Okay. I missed how you saved the color styles. If you don't mind, you can repeat for
How
me.
I did what?
How you created the color styles, the primary, secondary, and then you saved them.
Okay, so what I did is I just knew the color I wanted to work with. So I went further to create a rectangle for it. And let me not use the color I'm working with, so it won't be like I'm manufacturing color. So you already have this color that you want to work with based on you've carried out your research and every other thing. So you already know the color you're working with. So this is just to type in the color. Let's say this is the color code I want to use. We know that white is FFFFF, black is 00000. So let's say I want to use black. Now I've gotten the color. For me to save it, I'll click on this box. I'll come to this part where I have 4 dots. If you hover on it, you will see style. You click on style. You see a plus button, which is create style. You create it and you type what you want to type. If you want it to be your primary color, you type primary color. If you want it to be black, you type black. If you want it to be the color for your text, you type it. Then you create style. You've added that style to your design. So as you can see, it's listed here. So if I don't want this style, what I'm going to do is to edit style. I cannot change the black to 101010 because I don't like using pure black. So I've edited the style and I've saved it. So that's it. I hope I've answered your question. Any other question?
All right. Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I actually wanted to ask about the layout grid because I saw that you put some margins here and I saw that they were columns. So can I just, because I didn't come in like when the class started, can I just see the kind of layout grid you used? And from experience, I found out that it's not for layout grids. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. It depends on the website. So, what are the things that might influence you to use a particular kind of layout grid, like the columns and everything? So, what do you think? What are the things that might influence your using?
Okay. Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the last person that was talking, I did not get to hear what you said.
All right, I said I wanted you to, one, go over your layout grid again, and two, I understand from experience that layout grids is not a one size fits all kind of approach. So when you use grids, what influences your use of a particular, let's say, row or column? So those are the two things I want to know.
Okay, so for column, what influences me is the amount of space I want to give each element. Now, this is my hero section, and I want to go over to design my about us section. For column, I make use of either 8 pixel or 16 because I want it to be uniform. I want 16 pixels to be across all the sections I'm going to design. So
And what
that's what
about your gutter and margin?
that's what influences me. So for the column grid, what I do is I just know the amount of space I want for at each side of my design, and I just get to, so I mostly use 120, 120, 70 to do, depending on, you're not limited to using a particular number. You've already carried out your research, so you just know what works best for you. For me, for this particular design is 70 because I don't want enough space. I don't want the spaces between these two places to be very wide. And also, what influences it is my responsiveness, how I want it to respond when it's being viewed on other devices. So you should not be limited to what I tell you. I can't tell you that it's 120 or 70. I can also tell you it's 1,000. So it's what you want that works best for you. That's how you create your grid.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so the next person.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening. So I wanted to know the tax. I was not sure of it. Are we to design the remaining EU sections or just?
Yes. Yes, we are designing this full page, and as I've given you the home, the about us, the contact us, and the visitors. So you have to design each of these sections down.
Okay, so are we to design the exact thing you're designing, or
no? I said a creative industry. We are a creative.
Yeah,
that's the case study. We are a creative industry. So it's either we sell pictures, anything. Just think of what the creative industries they do. You don't need to use my color.
Okay.
But if you are following me on this design, like I said in the previous classes, that I want some people to be doing it live. And I know that some persons are already doing this. So you don't need to change. So just continue. But if you did not follow me to this point, you can watch the video after this class, pick your color, pick your own picture. You must not use the picture I use. But what I want to see in this task is I want to see how you use your overlay. I want to see your grid system. I want to be able to measure the spaces between where creative, we lorem ipsum, and the button. I want to see the exact, and should be, aside posting these designs that you do, I'd want to, you'd submit your Figma link. After this class, I'll give you more information on it so that I can be able to monitor the grid system very well. Because today we talked about grid, so I want to see how you'll be able to manage your grid, how you'll be able to come up with better layouts for your grid and design something good. And also, before I forget, this is a 3 design. So you have to, when you're done with this part, you have to tell me how it's going to appear on iPad and how it's going to appear on your mobile phone. So let me give you expo. For your mobile phone, you don't need to do all this. So you can just put your logo and your hamburger button here. And you're not designing plenty things, just how you want it to appear on phone. So that's it. But do this home first and submit. Then before the end of this week, we can do the other ones. So who is the next person? We have just 8 minutes. No, we have just 8 minutes. Yes, wrap up. So please, one more person, and we'll continue on Slack. Please, one more person, and we are continuing on Slack. You can ask your questions on Slack. We have just 8 minutes. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, one more question, and we continue on Slack. We ask our questions on Slack.
I wanted to ask how what is the now how can one differentiate the fluid grid and the fixed grid? Like, we've designed this, we've seen these grids, then like how can you demonstrate how this one is a fluid grid, and how does like a fixed grid look like? Like, how are they different in practically?
Practically, okay. So from your question now, I guess you can also answer it. Is this a fixed, from what Ellen explained in class, is this a fixed grid or a fluid grid? So this is a fluid grid, because you need to mostly design responsive grid. So let me quickly show you a fixed grid. So frame, desktop, 140. So these, let me add a grid system, column grid. Sorry, column. So this count should be 12. So this should be 300. So now the difference between your fixed grid is that your margin and your gutter is this, and your gutter is fixed, is at the center. So let's make it center. Okay. Center. So this is a fixed grid. Now, what you mostly use this kind of grid for is to design your form elements. Let's say I want to design a form. This is a login form. So this is the form elements. This is where I mostly use. This is where you mostly use your fixed grid. So you have more margin space. Then your gutter and the other one is fixed. Do you understand?
I think okay. Should we say like a fixed grid is like this one? That
Yeah,
is
just put it
aligned
in
in
your
the
head. A fixed grid is mostly used to design forms, mother box, modals, login, sign out, those kind of designs that you have spaces, big spaces at both sides. I'm trying to explain it in a way that it will be a little child will understand it. So don't mind. So it's used to design models, forms, and the rest of them. Let me quickly show you. So can you see my screen? Can you see this particular screen? Okay, so this is what I want to show you. If you can see my screen, let me know. So this is it. This is a fixed grid where your columns and gutter does not change. So you mostly use it to design your fonts, your forms.
Yes.
So that's it.
Can see it now. Thank you.
Okay. We don't have time again. All right, so one more question. The fastest person, unmute and ask your question. Then the rest of you should go on Slack and drop a question. I'll reply on Slack.
Okay. Hello, Mama.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Please, about the assignment, I don't really get it. Like,
Okay.
are we meant to design a full landing page or just this
Yes.
hero section?
No, not
Okay.
just the Euro section. You're designing a full landing page using the grid system you were taught, yes, and the rest of them.
Okay, okay. Like, we're not meant to have like separate pages for the about the contact person.
No, just the landing page.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. J. Smith, you're the last person.
Okay, good evening. Sorry.
Good evening.
Yeah, please. Just for confirmation, I just wanted to know, since you are the major, would I say the major thing you're trying to, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, since the major thing we are trying to get about, according to you, is to really observe the space between the, we are creatives, the Lorem Ipsum, and the button there. Is it possible to use auto layout on it and then just use that to adjust the size, the space between them? Is that still acceptable?
Okay, so that's like you going very far. We'll still get to auto layout. For now, we are doing grid, the traditional method. We are doing grid system. So it's just to use your grid and get the spaces. When we get to auto layout, we'll get to use auto layout.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you very much.
so thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for attending today's class. All questions should be asked on the Slack channel. I'll reply from there. This is where we'll end our class for today. Thanks for coming. Make sure you do your assignment and post. I want to start seeing the post from tomorrow. Let me give you this night to be able to, for those of you that would want to watch the video back, that go on YouTube to watch this class, do that. Then you submit your, from tomorrow, I want to be seeing the post before we meet on Wednesday. But before the end of this week, you should be able to complete all other screens. That means your mobile, your iPad. But for now, focus on the web version. So thank you very much. See you on the Slack channel.